Hi guys, this is Chris with The Age of Reason, and today is September 20th, 2017. Today we are going to discuss a few different subjects which came up in my internet news feed, which are pretty ridiculous as always. Like I've said before, it seems every day that we wake up, there's another ridiculous story going on, another ridiculous fantasy created to keep everyone confused. And these, I won't particularly say are fantasy or fabricated. I'm going to say that these ones here that I've selected to gloss over are unfortunately far too real and far too accurate of what's going on in this country today, especially in terms of politics. Now, as I have always said, the so-called politicians who run this shit, who run this country into the ground and destroy the lives of everybody, these are people that you cannot communicate with or reason with by any means. They are a part of a higher class of society. They are a part of a protected class of society. They are Shabbos Goy, and they are Jews. So there's no way of getting around it. And this is what often bewilders me about these so-called alt-righters who get behind these personalities like Spencer or Enoch or whoever else they have out there. These personalities continue to push the narrative that somehow you can beat these fuckers at their own game. Their game is political control. Somehow these guys are still convinced that the Democratic Party and the Republican Party and the Libertarian Party and the Communist Party or the Nazi Party, any one of these so-called parties, are somehow separated from each other. When of course all it takes is the slightest amount of opening the cracks of your eyes to realize that it's all bullshit, that they all play the same game for the same agenda. So I've started to think that perhaps a regular guy like myself and a couple other regular guys out there are actually more intelligent than these people who are pushing this political agenda, this let's vote, let's make our voices heard. Are we more intelligent than these people? Or are these people just as intelligent and intentionally steering people right on down to hell? And I use the word hell euphemistically, just for the worst possible scenario that you could ever imagine in life. And I think that we're actually already there. Many people think that, oh, if we don't do something now, our country's going to be completely subverted and we won't have no rights left. Well, let me tell you guys something. You guys who still think that, this country has already been subverted and thrown away. And anybody who still believes that we have a so-called country to be proud of or live within or deserves our bloodshed, anybody who really believes that has failed to pay attention to just what's going on every day in the world. I argue that our country has been subverted as far back as 1939 or 1913 with the invention of the Federal Reserve Bank by that piece of shit so-called President Woodrow Wilson and his Jewish masters. And indeed, we may have been subverted well before then. People want to say, make America great again. Well, when was it great? When was it great? Of course, it was great when everybody had money. You know, when everybody was successful and they could pay their bills and, you know, they could even own land, and when these social problems weren't as out of control as they are. Of course, these social problems and this bankruptcy, things like that, these have all been cleverly created decades ago. Decades, hundreds of years ago even. And maybe even longer. This kind of thing has gone on throughout the history of the world, and only when people realize it and say, we are going to stop this, does it change. You cannot reason with the upper class. You cannot communicate with them. They don't pay attention to your letters that you write. They don't pay attention to your emails. They don't pay attention to your vote. They're going to do whatever the fuck they want to do, and it is not going to be in the best interests of anyone below them. What they do is they continue to enslave the poor, and that's it. It's that simple. Alright, now we've got all that out of the way, let's go ahead and have a look at this first news blast that came up from abcnews.go.com. The headline is 3 members of Congress arrested at Trump Tower street protest. And the article reads, 3 Democratic members of Congress have been arrested on disorderly conduct charges at a protest outside Trump Tower. U.S. Reps Paul Grijalva of Arizona, Luis Gutierrez of Illinois, and Adriano Espaillat of New York were among a small group of demonstrators who sat down on the street on New York's Fifth Avenue on Tuesday and refused to move. The lawmakers were handcuffed and led away. Police say they were issued desk appearance tickets and released. The protesters were demanding that Congress pass legislation protecting thousands of young immigrants from deportation. Protest organizers said before the event that the lawmakers planned to get arrested. President Donald Trump delivered an address to the United Nations earlier Tuesday. The Republican was scheduled to stay at Trump Tower afterward, but wasn't present for the protest. Alright, so let's just go ahead and do a quick search that you guys could all do on your own if you decide to get up off your asses and start paying attention. What we're going to do is we're going to search for the names of these pieces of shit, and we're going to follow that with the word Jewish, and we're going to find out what our results come back as. So, after looking up Luis Gutierrez and the word Jewish, we come up with the website American Renaissance, or amren.com, and an article from July 22nd, 2014 reads, Luis Gutierrez to La Raza. Here we go, guys, to La Raza. Get amnesty to, quote, punish Americans against illegal immigration. By Tony Lee, Breitbart, July 21st, 2014. Representative Luis Gutierrez, Democrat, Illinois, believes Hispanics should get amnesty and citizenship to punish Americans who are against illegal immigration. After he told the La Raza conference in Los Angeles that President Barack Obama gave the Latino community a, quote, down payment with his temporary amnesty program that halted the deportations, quote, of our people, unquote, Gutierrez urged Hispanics to seek retribution at the ballot box. Quote, we need to raise our voices, make ourselves citizens, sign up to vote, and punish those who speak ill and criminalize children who come to our border, Gutierrez reportedly said in Spanish this weekend. So, Luis Gutierrez, for everybody who is all pro-white and everything else, this guy is certainly continuing with a brief read into Luis Gutierrez. After we wrote Luis Gutierrez and Jewish, we come up with gutierrez.house.gov, and we come up with an article headlined, Jewish and Hispanic Members of Congress Pledge Commitment to Immigration Reform. This is September 29th, 2008. For immediate release, Washington, D.C. Today, as the House of Representatives prepares to recess and turn its focus to the priorities of a new Congress, and Jews across the world prepare to celebrate the beginning of a new year, Hispanic and Jewish members of Congress proudly announced a shared commitment to immigrants of all faiths and backgrounds. In a statement signed by 20 U.S. representatives, including Chicago Reps Rahm Emanuel, remember this is 2008 when Obama and Emanuel and all these fuckers were really starting to get their claws in, and Luis V. Gutierrez, members declared that, quote, it is in the spirit of our shared experiences and common goals that we put forth our shared priorities for fair and workable immigration reform. The shared statement outlines members' intentions to focus on reform that secures our borders, secures a legal workforce through an accurate employment verification system, requires undocumented immigrants to apply for legal status, pass rigorous background checks, pay back taxes, and learn English, condemns inefficient enforcement tools such as poorly planned workplace raids, keeps families together, and ensures that abusive employers are not allowed to exploit the system by denying Americans jobs and taking advantage of vulnerable immigrants. Quote, as Jews and Hispanics, we share an experience that defines our history and reflects our families' roots. The experience of being a stranger in a strange land, said Rep. Gutierrez. By signing this statement on immigration reform, we communicate to our constituents and the American people that despite our diversity, we are committed to transforming our broken immigration system into one that reflects our diverse origins, respects our community's history, and values our country's identity as a nation of immigrants. This affirmation of our shared commitment comes at a particularly poignant time, said Rep. Emanuel. Beginning tonight, Jews all over the world will celebrate Rosh Hashanah and look inward to evaluate actions of the past and good intentions for the future. For all of us, this reflects the turning of a new leaf and a renewed commitment to policies that reflect the highest standard of kindness, justice and humanity towards one another. Now here we have it. Of course, there is a joinder between these fuckers in power. And if you want to take this from a so-called pro-white angle, you have to realize that the power behind this Gutierrez is his connection to Jews in the government. Now, why are there Jews in the government? Well, because ages ago now, they completely took control of all forms of our government, from our Congress to our currency. And so what has slowly but gradually happened is that we have seen an increase in Jews and non-whites in branches of our government. And this goes all the way from the top to the bottom, from Supreme Court justices to members of Congress to judges and prosecutors and lawyers and police officers and bankers. How can you guys continue to ignore this Jewish link here? These Hispanics or these other non-white did not just find some overnight strength and control of our government. So right off the bat, we can see that as far back as 2008, with this particular character, Luis Gutierrez, he has been in tight joinder with Jews in power in our government to go ahead and work towards unfolding this plan of the societal and even racial, to stay on that subject briefly, racial change and breakdown in this country. So it only takes just a little bit of time to look into these characters and find out, where they're coming from and what their agenda is. And I say that it is disingenuous of these so-called alt-righters and anyone else who focuses strictly on the racial problem in play here, because it is these Jews who are bringing in these other races into your neighborhoods, into your societies, into your communities. And they are doing it, of course, with joinder of these other non-white politicians. This Gutierrez here, in this instance, he's not hooked up with some European pushing this agenda. He's hooked up with a Jew pushing this agenda. Now, they want to talk about how the system of immigration is broken and it needs to be reformed. Well, I beg to differ. The system was not broken. The system has been intentionally destroyed in order to open up these loopholes and to allow for more politicking to go on. And politicking is going to continue until everybody realizes that all these bastards in power over you are not your masters and you are their masters, and it is up to the Goyim to collectively get these rotten pieces of shit out of here. Now, reflecting back on the initial headline which brought us into this, we can see where it reads that these politicians had already planned on getting arrested. They wanted to make a scene. They wanted to cause a controversy. Now, these bastards had nothing better to do with their time. These are supposed to be lawmakers and politicians, and they had nothing better to do with their time than to attend a public protest rally event and sit down and get some camera time for the newspapers and the magazines and all the Jewish liberal bullshit media that everybody eats up. These guys had nothing better to do with their time. Now, what about you, Goy? Do you have nothing better to do with your time? You just gonna go ahead and read about this and bitch about it online, listen to these alt-righters who keep you focused on the non-white race part of it? Do you guys really think that Donald Trump is really going to help you? Do you guys really think that Donald Trump is going to help you get out of this situation? Do you think that you can just cast a couple ballots and write a couple stern, angry letters to your politicians and things will just magically turn around? No. Of course not. That's not how it works. That's not how it works at all. That methodology is how it got to this situation. That methodology is how these back doors have been opened, because people just sit on their asses and get angry and bitch and complain, and they don't want to do anything. And, like you, I am just a regular guy. I'm trying to put my voice out there at least, because if we have nothing else, we at least have the power to communicate our mind and try to express things and try to talk. And not enough guys are doing that. So guys, it's time. And so let's go ahead and tackle the next name in line here, Raul Grijalva, okay? And typing Raul Grijalva, Jewish, brings us to jfsa.org, which is the Jewish Federation of Southern Arizona, and their slogan is Stronger Together. Now, what strength are they trying to flex here? Well, of course, they are trying to flex the destruction of your lives, guy. Okay? Whether you like the racial aspect of it or not, there is Jews behind it. So let's go ahead and read. Jewish Latino Program for Latino and Jewish Students. Jewish Latino Teen Coalition, a project of the Jewish Federation's Jewish Community Relations Council in collaboration with the Office of Representative Paul Grijalva and the League of United Latin American Citizens, JLTC brings together members of Southern Arizona's Jewish and Latino teen communities to explore shared values and concerns and develop future leaders. For more information, contact the Federation office at area code 520-577-9393. So, right there off the bat, off the jump, here's our first link with this piece of shit and the Jew handshakes that he gets down with. And we can look here just at the search results. Raul Grijalva, Jewish and Israel News. Raul Grijalva, San Diego Jewish World. Congressman Raul Grijalva, more Jew shit. He visits Israel all the time. You know, who do you think is really pushing this shit? Of course, these bastards want this, you know, these so-called Mexicans or so-called Latinos. I don't know what the proper pronoun is anymore, so please pardon me. No, fuck you, don't pardon me. I don't know the fucking proper pronoun, and I don't live in fucking the politically correct reality of bullshit. So I don't know what the proper pronoun is. If this guy is Mexican or Latino, I don't fucking know. Either way, regardless, this piece of shit, that's what he is. Mexican, Latino, whatever, he is a piece of shit. This piece of shit is actively asking for help through Jews to destroy your homeland, your neighborhood, take back the property that your family bought decades ago, you know, and force you out of existence. But like I've said before, this has been in progress for a long time. All you guys have to do is read, and read. And if you don't want to read, listen. Listen when people have to speak. Follow references and links that people provide you online, let's say. You know, this isn't too hard to figure out. All you really have to do is look into the protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion, which is not a fabrication, and even if it were, fuck it, because it's what's really happening. Now, it's a long diatribe to read. You don't have to read it though. Guys, everything is online now. You can listen to it as an ebook read here on YouTube. It'll probably take about 3 hours of your time, but you can put it on the background and you can do some work around your yard or whatever and just let it soak in. You can play it in your earbuds while you go to sleep at night. Drive this information into yourself. If you're a handyman, you got projects going, shut off the bullshit music, turn on some real information. Play this shit in the background. Educate yourselves, guys. You have to start paying attention. This is the first, simplest way that you can start paying attention, is just to change what you do. Like I say, if you're listening to music when you're taking care of some projects, shut off the music, find something to listen to that's going to educate you. And it goes like that for everything. Hey, variety is the spice of life, right? Diversity will diversify your time. You gotta diversify your bonds, nigga. Diversify your time. And now to the third piece of shit at large here in this stupid political stunt. It's not even a political stunt. It's a social stunt. It's a social experiment. The experiment of democracy. This is a social experiment. They want to see how people are going to respond, okay? So we have Adriano Espaillat, and followed up with the word Jewish. And what do we get? Riverdale Press. Espaillat returns from Israel. Posted December 23rd, 2011 by Adam Wisniewski. Wisniewski. I pronounce it with double V because that's what the W is. It's the double V. When State Senator Adriano Espaillat visited Jerusalem's Holocaust Memorial and Museum on a recent trip to Israel, something caught his eye. The Yad Vashem exhibited a statement about the country of his birth, the Dominican Republic, and how in 1938 it was the first country to accept Jewish refugees fleeing persecution. All right, let's just stop right there. Right off the bat, they are telling us that Adriano Espaillat was actually born in the Dominican Republic. Now, what would be the difference between this piece of shit, who is actually Dominican, and Rahm Emanuel, who is actually Jewish? They both share dual citizenship, and they both control the future of your lives in this country. So, have you started to pay attention here? Have you started to see that the country has long been subverted, and that these whole standards of dual citizenship, they don't hold anymore, like you want to think, you know? And if they do, they're only going to hold by you getting up and taking a stand and doing something. If you just write a fucking letter, they're not going to do anything about it, you know? So let's continue on. The Dominican Republic, and how in 1938 it was the first country to accept Jewish refugees fleeing persecution. So the Dominican Republic was one of the first countries accepting Jews into its territory in 1938. Now this is what, before or just around the time of World War I? Okay, so there are plenty of Jews, it means, in the Dominican Republic, and perhaps this piece of shit himself is Jewish. Hundreds of fleeing families made their way to the town of Susa, and many families still live there today. For the Dominican senator from Washington Heights, this is only one way he connects to Judaism. The second, of course, is his representation of a large Jewish community in both Riverdale and parts of Washington Heights. Mr. Espaillat joined Latino legislators from Connecticut, Texas, Illinois, New Mexico, Chile, Uruguay, and 2 colleagues from New York, Assemblymen Phil Ramos and Nelson Castro. Castro was a mulatto Jew, so there's that Castro name, on an Anti-Defamation League sponsored trip to Israel. So the ADL paid for these fucking politicians to go to Israel. From November 28th to December 6th, Mr. Espaillat said his days were filled with trips to religious, historical, and political destinations, as well as meetings with people, including Palestinians, Arab Israelis, Holocaust survivors, Palestinian and Israeli families of people who have been killed in the conflicts there, and Israeli legislators. Of course, that would be Bibi Netanyahu. We already know that. He said a lot had changed since he first visited a decade ago. Quote, "I think that the country is safer internally. When I went there, the situation was a little bit different. I thought it was a little more dangerous," he said. Mr. Espaillat said he and many of the people he spoke with were concerned over the possibility that Iran, here we go, they gotta always bring up fucking Iran, has nuclear weapons. Of course, nuclear weapons is nothing more than Cold War fear to keep you guys fucking glued to your fucking news boxes, you know, because you're all terrified that nuclear war is going to happen. It's not going to fucking happen. Even if nuclear arms existed, they would be far too destructive to the natural resources of any territory. And nobody who wants to take territory is going to demolish the territory through radiation to get it. So, also, nuclear bombs don't exist. So, get that out of your head. Start researching, start learning. All you gotta do is search YouTube for nuclear weapons hoax, nuclear power hoax, etc. And you'll find tons of information that men have poured their time into. Mr. Espaillat said his perspective on the geography of the Middle East changed while visiting the Golan Heights near the Syrian border. Golan Heights is a huge Jewish interest, of course, and this bastard, he gets to go to all these ancient places. He is your high society who rules over you. You, Democrat, Republican, piss poor goy, you will never get to see these incredibly beautiful places, these incredibly ancient and historic places. These are places not for thee. Goyim you shall forever goyim be. Get that in your heads. If you're going to continue to support this fabricated system of government, then you will forever be a slave unto it. Continuing on, quote, you think about it and you think these countries are so far apart. It's like Jersey and Connecticut. They're so close to each other that there's always an element of danger when you wake up in the morning, so you learn to appreciate what we have here, he said. Mr. Espaillat also discussed with the press the vast differences between Israel's, and it doesn't matter. This whole article is just trumping him up for the fucking Jews and showing you that he loves Jews and he loves the Jewish agenda and he has a firm handshake with them. He is another Shabbos goy, and I told you that at the start of this broadcast. Our politicians are all Shabbos goy. Regardless of what political party they play for or whatnot, they don't worry about being broke. They don't worry about the lights going off, or the car breaking down, or losing their fucking job. They could lose their job if the Goyim would start telling them, you guys are fucking fired. But they don't have to worry about that, do they? Because nobody is doing that. Anyway, guys, back to the initial story. We have glossed over these three pieces of shit who all have Jewish links. Is it any wonder to you now? This is just one short video here about these three pieces of shit who are claiming to have some fucking racial connection, but their biggest connection is to the race of the Jew, who keeps them in power and helps them continue dividing the poor and conquering the poor, because that's what they need. They need the poor to be broke and to be damaged and to be divided. If the poor decide to stop working for things to have around their house, the poor stop deciding to work to earn an income tax refund check to buy a new TV at the end of the fucking year, and instead start focusing on educating themselves, things could change and these bastards might have something to worry about. But so long as everybody is focused on the shit that doesn't matter, these fuckers are gonna keep on lording over you. Alright guys, I'm kind of starting to run a long time here. I'm not trying to put anybody to sleep. I certainly hope that you are all starting to pay attention. My daughter is awake, so I'm going to start winding this down. But here is just briefly one other story that I want to touch on. And I don't think I'm going to get to it in this broadcast, but hopefully you guys will hear these words and you will start looking into it, okay? Now, out in New York, there has been arrested a man named Yaacov Shemesh. Yaacov Shemesh.
Oy vey, Yaakov, what did you do this time? Why are you getting arrested again? Oh, don't worry. Yeah, we'll get you out of there real soon, all right? Just hold tight, okay?
So Yaacov Shemesh was arrested in New York for spray painting graffiti about politicians and shit on people's houses and businesses too. And he's running around in this hoodie, and they have footage of him. And what do you guys think will happen with him, huh? Go ahead and hit the comments with how do you think that's going to go down. What do you think is going to happen? Is he going to take any time, or do they reserve that room at the local county hotel for the goy? All right, guys, this is Chris with the Age of Reason. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to listen to me on this, and I really appreciate all the emails that I've gotten from you guys lately. It really means a lot to me, and it helps keep me motivated, guys. And I hope that I help keep you motivated as well, because like I always say, we are trying to open minds here. Now we can hear my daughter in the background, so I gotta wrap this one up. But as always, my name is Chris. This is the Age of Reason. You guys can contact me at osmorphys@gmail.com. That's osmorpheus@gmail.com. Check out my Patreon and my Hatreon at patreon.com/osmorpheus, hatreon.com/osmorpheus. And you guys can always call or text at area code 810-476-8066. I want to thank everybody for listening. As always, hit me up with some feedback in the comments. Like I say to you guys, every broadcast, keep both eyes, all three eyes, opened at all times, and go further. Guys, start paying attention. You really think these fucking alt-righters are going to get you anywhere with playing the politics game? You know, you think you can vote your way out of everything? Come on, guys. What I think they're doing, I think they're actually working to create a new political party. I don't know about you guys, but that's what I'm thinking. Anyhow, guys, that's subject for another discussion. This is Chris with the Age of Reason for the last time. Thanks for listening. I'll catch you guys next time.